Hello there, this is MTG Degree, and welcome to our Amonkhet Prerelease guide. Now I'm really happy that you're here today because this set is very complex, and one of the big edges that you'll get against your opponents is simply knowing the set way better than them. Now we're going to go over the commons and uncommons in this set review because I want you to be able to find things that are going to pull you into colors when you're deck building. I think that's very important. And a quick warning, nobody's ever played this set before, but I am pretty confident about how great the cards are that I selected. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now let's start off with land. This is going to be really quick. We start off with Evolving Wilds, Cradle of the Accursed, and Grasping Dunes. Now Evolving Wilds is just one of those classic cards you always see over and over again. It's going to help you fix your mana. Cradle of the Accursed is actually great. I'd be happy to put one of these in almost any deck because of that creature zombie trigger that's going on there. Getting creatures out of your lands is really nice in the late game. Grasping Dunes, tiny bit of value. You get some synergy with the -1/-1 counter theme in the set, but it's not worth it if you're in 3 or more colors. Now let's talk about white next. I'd like to start off with Gustwalker, Takra Elite, and Retcrop Spearmaster. Now, Gustwalker is great. It gets in for some flying damage late in that 2/2 early. I love that kind of thing. Takrop Elite is amazing because that exert effect that you have to attack in order to get, I mean, it's on a flyer, so it's not going to be blocked that often, so it's a really good anthem effect to have on a creature. And Retcrop Spearmaster is a very aggressive first strike creature. It'll take a long time before they're able to block that thing. Next, we've got Fanbearer, Oketra's Attendant, and Seraph of the Sun. Tappers are amazing, so I like Fanbearer. Oketra's Attendant is a cycling Embalm flyer, great combo, while Seraph of the Suns is an indestructible angel. You can't ask for much more. It's just a little bit weaker than usual because there's -1/-1 counters in the set. Our last 2 creatures in white are Vizier of Deferment and Vizier of Remedies. Now for Vizier of Deferment, remember this flash creature slaughters Embalm tokens because when you Embalm you get a token, so when you exile it, it doesn't come back. Vizier of Remedies has amazing synergies with -1/-1 creatures, and you'll just see it all the time as we go through this set review. Our next 3 cards are Compulsory Rest, Impeccable Timing, and Cast Out, which are all removal, which is something that I love. Our next 2 cards are Cartouche of Solidarity and Trial of Solidarity. Now, Cartouche of Solidarity is great in an aggressive deck, while Trial of Solidarity, I would only play with 2 or more cartouches in your deck to get that buyback value. Next, let's talk about blue. I'd like to start off with Angler Drake, Aven Initiate, and Naga Oracle. Angler Drake has got that blue tempo flyer thing going on. Great, play it all the time. Aven Initiate is an Embalm flyer, so you get to keep that pressure up. And Naga Oracle is not necessarily great, but if you've got some Embalm in your deck, you get lots of free value. When you take Embalm cards and put them in your graveyard, it's almost like drawing a card there. Our next 2 cards are Open Into Wonder and Cartouche of Knowledge. Now, Open Into Wonder is amazing. It's going to be a sweet game ender for you. If you can get it on 4 or more creatures, there's a great chance that they're just dead. But if they're not dead, you've got so many more cards in them that you will kill them later. Cartouche of Knowledge is probably the best cartouche because it just draws you a card after it comes into play, and flying is very powerful. Next up, we've got Essence Scatter and Gale Strike. Now, Essence Scatter is my favorite counterspell here because it's always going to counter a creature, which is what tends to beat you in these games. Gale Strike, I love classic blue. It's a lot stronger than it looks, these bounce effects. Our last 2 cards are these draw spells, Hieroglyphic Illumination and Trial of Knowledge. Now, Hieroglyphic Illumination is good early to get you land drops, you can cycle it, and late, because you get the 2-for-1 obviously by just casting it normally. Trial of Knowledge is very solid card draw. You can play it without cartouches, but it's great with them. Our next color is black, and I'd like to start off right away with Baleful Ammit, Bone Picker, Grim Strider, and Wasteland Scorpion. Now, Ammit is great because lifelink is very strong. Also, remember Vizier of Remedies. This is just going to show up all the time. Bone Picker, Air Death Touch is a great combination. You're just never going to lose to those air bombs that people play. Grim Strider, don't play it with draw 3s, but if you're a really aggressive deck, it's something that'll just bring you over the top that they have to block. Wasteland Scorpion is great because Death Touch is great and annoying. Next up, we've got Lord of the Accursed, Gravedigger, and Stir the Sands. Now, Lord of the Accursed has tons of zombies in this set. Even creatures that don't look like zombies on the art are zombies. So this is going to be great. It's going to pump up a lot of your creatures. Gravedigger, speaking of zombies, Value Town is the only town that I want to live in. And Stir the Sands, you get 3 zombies for the price of 6. As long as you're doing something fun with them, it's definitely worth it. Next up, we've got Splendid Agony and Final Reward. Splendid Agony has those -1/-1 counter synergies, which are really strong, and you can just use it as simple removal if you need. And there's Final Reward here, which is amazing removal, and you'll note is great against Embalm creatures because they don't go to the graveyard, it's gone forever. The last card that I'd like to look at is Unburden. It is much, much better than Mind Rot because if you draw it late, you can simply cycle it if your opponent has nothing in hand, and getting these 2-for-1s is a great way to win sealed games. Next up, we've got Red, which is definitely embracing its beatdown roots, starting with Amonkhet Crasher, ooh, that's hard to say, Emberhorn Minotaur, and True Heart Twins. Now, Amonkhet Crasher and Emberhorn Minotaur are both just good aggressive creatures, and True Heart Twins has crazy alpha potential, especially with a lot of those exert creatures in white. Next up, we've got Blood Rage Brawler and Pathmaker Initiate. Blood Rage Brawler, lots of ways to make this not hurt, things like Embalm. Pathmaker Initiate, I promise you so many games will end with this stupid creature getting in 2 damage over and over again. Also great to get in something that swings for 2 but can exert for more, for example. Next up, we've got Magma Spray, Electrify, Deem Worthy, and Trial of Zeal. Of course, these are all the removal spells that we got. Big shout out to Magma Spray for making sure that when things say that they're gone by going to the graveyard, that they stay gone. Next up is a card that I promise you is way better than it looks, which is Consuming Fervor. Now, people who have been playing the game for a while probably don't like the look of this card because it looks like your creature dies because of the fervor. Well, I promise you, this card is amazing. For example, Vizier of Remedies, boom, no downside to this card at all. And there's lots of creatures in this set that want to have -1/-1 counters placed on them. So this is actually way stronger than it looks. Please consider it. Our last color and a strong follow-up to our red beatdown is green, and we're going to start off with Crocodile of the Crossing, Defiant Greatmaw, and Exemplar of Strength. Crocodile of the Crossing, notice this is a haste creature in green. That is so cool. Defiant Greatmaw, crazy -1/-1 synergy creature. Consuming Fervor, for example, amazing on this creature. Exemplar of Strength, and Defiant Greatmaw. Just look at those cards together, and also Consuming Fervor. Are we starting to see a combination here? Like, there's some great stuff going on. Next up, we've got Hooded Brawler, Pouncing Cheetah, and Scaled Behemoth. Now, Hooding Brawler, of course, punches very hard. I love that. Creatures that can get a little bit more value as the game goes on. Pouncing Cheetah is a flash creature, which I just have an affinity for. And Scaled Behemoth, just play your first one. This thing is big and tough to deal with. I love cards that are those 2 things in green. Next up, we've got Sheffet Monitor and Trial of Strength. Sheffet Monitor is great because if you're trying to ramp into that late game where you just play big things, it helps you do that. If you're already at that late game where you're playing big things, you just play it. Trial of Strength is kind of marginal. I want at least 1 cartouche in my deck so that I have a chance of buying this thing back and using it twice. Next up, we've got Manglehorn and Naga Vitalist. Now, Manglehorn is a good hedge against artifacts. Since it's already a creature, you're not going to lose that much value. And Naga Vitalist is a very versatile ramp creature, and I'm pretty much just going to slap this into green decks without even thinking about it. Next up is Cartouche of Strength, Shed Weakness, Stinging Shot, and Synchronized Strike. Now, Cartouche of Strength is great because fighting is great. Shed Weakness for many creatures is better than Giant Growth, which is amazing. This is that -1/-1 counter thing that we're talking about. Stinging Shot is extremely efficient at killing flyers, and you know what? If they're not playing a color that has flyers, boom, cycle it, easy. I'd always play a Stinging Shot. Synchronized Strike, I love 2-for-1s. If I can set them up with nonsense like this, I'm down to do it. Now in the land of multicolored cards, I would say the following gold cards are good, with special shoutouts to Aven Wind Guide, Decimator Beetle, Wayward Servant, and Weaver of Currents. And remember, for Aven Wind Guide, this thing works on Embalm tokens and gives them flying. That is awesome, so do not forget that. Decimator Beetle has the amazing -1/-1 synergies that are just over the top. And Weaver of Currents I'd like to point out because ramping by 2 is a lot. You really get to the late game quickly. Next up, we've got 3 split cards here, and all of them are just built-in card advantage because you get to cast them twice. They all have reasonable effects on both sides of the cast, so if you're in both colors, fantastic, just play them. Lastly, we've got artifacts, and I'd like to start off with Edifice of Authority and Gate to the Afterlife. Now, Edifice to the Authority is an amazing stall tool. It's pretty darn good just before you get the counters on it, and afterwards, amazing. You even stop the activated abilities of the creatures that you're dealing with. Gate to the Afterlife, we're only playing for the first paragraph since you don't have the second paragraph in your deck, but it's still playable even without that. It just keeps you going. It just keeps your hand as good as possible as the game keeps going on. So the longer you play, the higher your chance of winning with this on the battlefield. Our last artifact that I would love to mention is Embalmers Tools. Should you play it? Probably not. But if you have 2 and a bunch of zombies, please play it and send a photo of your deck to my Twitter. I would love to see you guys milling out people, but it's not necessarily the best strategy. I would like to thank you for watching this video. Now I'm going to release another video very soon, and we're going to talk about a lot of the complex mechanics that are going on in this set, and that video will help you, cut your pre-release opponent with every little edge that you can find and give you a much better chance of winning. So I hope that you watch that video. If you're not subscribed, you should subscribe. That way you catch that video when it comes out. And as always, I'll see you next video.